Well, looks like I was wrong last night. Turns out we're getting 2 chapters this week, just released at different times. So, a bit delayed. But let's dive back into the story. We left off last time when our boy and his hammer waifu had ventured deeper into the dungeon, only to face off against a bizarre-looking flower boss, and not long after, ran into another dragon boss. The massive creature lay crouched on the ground, putting both of them on high alert. This was their first time encountering a so-called weakened Lord-level boss. Just then, the boss opened its eyes and slowly rose from the lava, giving them a true sense of its immense size. Hot air blasted out of its massive nostrils, sending a wave of heat their way. Luckily, their skeletal armor kept them safe from taking any damage. Lin realized how strong it was and quickly summoned his skeleton army. Afterwards, he ordered them to surround the boss. Within moments, they had the creature encircled, but the dragon boss didn't seem fazed at all. Instead, it leisurely tilted its head and stood up, lifting one massive foot before stomping down. This was War Stomp, one of its 3 skills. What followed was an enormous shockwave that sent skeletons flying like leaves in a storm. Lin could feel the sheer power of the creature, the heat from the impact making it hard even to keep his eyes open. Thankfully, the attack only injured his skeletons rather than wiping them out. Lin then called forth his undead general. Knowing his skeletons couldn't withstand much more of these heavy hits, the undead general raised its scepter, and a bright light shone upon the skeletons, which began restoring their health. But the boss had incredibly high defense and multiple damage reduction special traits, making it clear that they'd have to chip away at its health slowly. With that in mind, Lin cast a slowing curse, and massive red shackles began wrapping around the boss. As expected, the curse's effect was heavily reduced due to the boss's special trait of being resistant to curse. But hey, a little slowdown was better than nothing. Meanwhile, the skeletal mages had finished casting their spells, and a barrage of elemental skills rained down on the boss. The boss lifted its foot again, preparing another war stomp, but this time, Lin was ready and he kept all his skeletons out of range. He then launched his counterattack, starting with Bone Spike, which pierced through the boss's thick skin, followed by a flicker of soul flame landing on its head. Lin wasn't expecting to kill the boss with these attacks, but they were enough to grab its attention, or rather what we gamers would call pulling aggro. Either way, this gave his skeleton army the perfect opening to strike. With a quick command, Lin ordered his skeletons to swarm. The skeletal warriors jumped onto the boss and began hacking away, while the skeletal mages unleashed a new barrage of attacks. The girl was in awe and thought to herself, so this is how Lin takes on bosses? No wonder he dares to enter the core areas alone. Seeing her standing there, Lin quickly called her over to help. Snapping out of it, she obediently swung her hammer, activating her collection skill. Now, Lin was done holding back. The undead general used Legion Enhancement, and Lin activated Mighty Soldiers, massively boosting his skeleton's attributes by 200% and 500% increased damage. The skeletal warriors followed up with a series of rampage strikes, and skeletal mages went pew-pew. Anyway, for the next 30 seconds, the Skelly is simply too OP, perhaps even enough to overwhelm the boss's 70% damage reduction. The boss roared in pain and began stumbling around, and in the next second, the boss suddenly turned its focus toward the girl. She sensed danger, but Lin got her back. As the dragon prepared to unleash a fiery breath attack, a well-timed soul flame struck it, throwing off its aim. The dragon's breath flew overhead, missing them completely, and clearly, this was its final struggle. The skeletons launched into their last charge, and within seconds, the dragon fell with a heavy crash. The system notified Lin that it had defeated the ancient Earth Dragon, earning 5.5 million experience. His loot included an Earth Dragon armor, an Earth Crystal, an Earth Gem, and, of course, a Heart of the Earth. Thanks to the collection skill, he received an extra of each item. Curious, Lin inspected his loot. The Earth Dragon armor was a Platinum-tier warrior gear, giving plus 2,000 to all attributes, reducing damage taken by 20%, and featuring a skill called Absolute Defense, which boosted defense tenfold and reduced all damage taken by 90% for 1 minute. The Earth Crystal was one of those rare items that could increase the success rate of profession evolution during their class transfer. In case you forgot, the crystals can combine into Divine Elemental Stone, which White Divine tells Lin to collect. although it could also be used independently to enhance physical resistance, though doing so would mean sacrificing its profession evolution potential. Anyway, moving on, the Earth Gem offered a permanent 50% physical damage reduction and had a chance to learn a physical type skill. For a paladin undergoing their second-class transfer, the gem would also significantly boost their chance for profession evolution. And of course, we all knew what the Heart of the Earth was good for. Lin was clearly thrilled, quite surprised to find an element crystal here, and thanks to the girl's collection skill, he ended up getting double the loots. But no one was happier than the girl, who was practically starstruck. She gushed over how Lin had handled the boss with such ease, even saving her from the dragon's fiery breath. Watching her excitement, Lin gave a slight smile before casually tossing her the Earth Dragon armor and one of the Earth Gems, suggesting she equip them and activate the gem right away. The girl was surprised as she caught the gear while telling him that she hadn't done much besides casting her collection skill. Lin, in a quite dominating tone, simply tells her to just listen to him, and they still have more dungeon to clear. She blinked a few times, but, obedient as ever, equipped the armor and activated the gem. Meanwhile, Lin was busy fusing the Earth Crystal with a divine elemental stone. With this fusion, he now has 3 elements: fire, poison, and earth.